All right, welcome back to the Seahawks chat. In this episode of Will This Player Make the Roster Cuts, I'm gonna be talking about a very interesting player that seems to be becoming a fan favorite. And not only is he becoming a fan favorite of the Seahawks and everyone in the 12s, he's actually been one of my favorites since UCLA. And that should already give you a tip of who I'm going to be talking about right now. So let's just go ahead and bring it out. I'm going to go ahead and speak about wide receiver Jake Bobo. All right, so let's just get down to it. So Jake Bobo is 6'5", 215 pounds, and he is 25 years old. In terms of wide receivers coming out and becoming an undrafted free agent or just being a undrafted free agent rookie, 25 years old is a little older than you would want, but there is some things that he does make up that does attribute to his age. So even though he's 25 years old, there is things that he does bring to the skill sets that he has. And I think it's actually nice that he does have things that he has up his arsenal because of the age that he's been playing in college. I mean, he basically played in college for nearly 5 years. So, throughout the time having all that playing time in college, he's able to muster up some techniques and be able to run routes like a receiver. But in any event, so I'm just going to talk about Jake Bobo himself. In UCLA, notably, he was really used as a third receiver. He was like their predominant slot receiver, which is surprising because you would think a slot receiver in a lot of cases they're usually smaller stature, about 6 foot or under, 6'1" or so. They usually have some of the most surest hands. Some of them are some of the most cuttest route runners. I mean, in terms of cuttest, like they're probably the most agile out of them. They're not the burners of the team. And all in all, the third receiver or slot receiver, especially coming up in the NFL, it's becoming a much more reliable option to be as wide receivers as before times. Like that's what's funny about slot receivers of today. Slot receivers of today have a lot of respect. Being a slot receiver is not a knock anymore. Whereas if you were called a slot receiver in the early 2000s, that was being told basically you suck. You were the third receiver. That doesn't make you special. The first two receivers were the main receivers. So it's kind of nice to see Bobo getting some respect as a third receiver, especially if you see him in UCLA. He ran a lot of slots. They really used him in the slot a lot. And one thing that I was impressed with is that as a big target, he was very comfortable going up the middle, having a lot of running slots, outs, ins, everything, just but in the middle. And I was surprised about that because normally, especially for a big target, you would like him to go out and throw it so you can have him catch the ball on a high point or anything like that. But that's what impressed me as well with Jake Bobo is that he can do the inside things almost as well as his outside things. The problem is that when he's never really used on the outside, and it's gonna be apparent why, but I'm gonna break it down later on as to why. But right now I'm talking about how they basically used him in UCLA. In UCLA, he was just their big slot third receiver, which there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that he was a reliable target is good. And for those of you who don't know, his quarterback in UCLA was Christian Thompson Robinson. And for those who may be familiarizing with that name, that's the guy from that just got picked up from the Browns and had a hell of a game in his first preseason. Now, here's the thing that when I was looking at Jake Bobo's stats, this is what shocked me. Throughout his career, when quarterbacks target him, their quarterback's QBR is 112.4. That's impressive. And that's been throughout his career. Like if any quarterback has targeted him, the quarterback has just got better because they threw it to Bobo. But that's the thing with Bobo. Bobo does have the ability to catch the ball. He is a willing catcher. But there's some things that I wanted to note before I get to the negatives on afterwards. I want to talk about his good. So here's some of the good things about Bobo. He's really good at high pointing. He's really good at locating the ball as it's being thrown out. So he's good at tracking the ball and being aware of his quarterback before the ball is out, which is very impressive because again, especially with some receivers. Some receivers just go and they anticipate the pass, and then they just put their hands out and expect the ball to be there. Instead, Bobo is focusing on where the ball will be coming, or if it's coming to him. In a lot of schemes, when I saw Shaq Charbonnet, because they both play on the same team, I was scouting Zach Charbonnet just as much. Jake Bobo's a decent well, he is as well, but still a decent blocker. He's not prolific or over the top, but he's not bad. His size really does help him push the offensive line for Charbonnet to run around, or even when he was catching balls off the side. But in any event, that's one thing that did highlight with Bobo, is that he's not afraid to go ahead and get down and dirty. That's good. Let me see. I know. I'm sorry. Let me just, because there's a few things that I put up here. Okay, so that's not. The thing that I did notice is that he does have really smooth hands, soft hands. The guy, once the ball touches it, I wouldn't say it's like Velcro, but he just catches that ball. And that's something that you want in the NFL, especially as your third or even fourth receiver. You want someone that if three checkdowns are done, your fourth checkdown all of a sudden is open because he finds space and they throw it to him and he catches the ball. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. He can be a receiver in the NFL, or at the very most a tight end. But I don't want him personally to be a tight end. I think he has the ability to. I'd rather him be a larger receiver in the NFL. The thing is that now we're gonna go a little bit to his negatives. As much as I don't want to talk about his negatives, because there is a lot of cons to him, as much as people don't want to admit it, but there really is. All right. So these are some of the bad things. He's not fast. He's really not fast, and that's not a bad thing. But when he comes off the line, there's no burst. He basically, in some cases, he just kind of like tiptoe walks, and then after he gets about 2-3 yards in, he'll start to run. Now he'll start to stride run. So that's something that I've noticed in all of his routes, almost all his routes, is that there's no sense of initial burst. And that's something that in the NFL, especially if you want to move up to a 2 receiver, you would need. Especially because these cornerbacks of the NFL today are very good. They can have the ability to catch up. They have the ability to turn around. They have the ability to clean up their own mistakes and make a play off of their mistake. I mean, look at Tariq Woolen. He did that multiple times in the NFL. I wouldn't say they were mistakes, but they made NFL quarterbacks assume that he couldn't catch up to the gap that he was allowing. Little did they know he runs faster than a cheetah. So he used it to his advantage. But in any event, we're not talking about Tariq Woolen. We're talking about Jake Bobo. So that's the one thing that is a little concerning, is that his actual burst to his routes and his route running speed isn't that fast. His change of direction is not that good. Anything that involves actual north-south is almost out the question in some cases. But here's the thing: he's not exactly a north-south receiver. He's definitely an east-west receiver, or at the very most, he's an up-the-middle receiver. Because I've seen a lot of his routes that end up the middle, on in routes, on slants, on curls, everything. And that's the thing too that Bobo can do, is that he can do post routes. He can actually curl to the right, to the left. He can do those routes. He has a whole arsenal of routes that he can run, and I am happy he can run those routes at his size. But the thing is just he's not so fast with his routes. And so because his routes are so slow, there's almost, to a degree, almost a chance even lower end quality NFL caliber cornerbacks can pick him off, or at the very least block him off. But here's the thing that I will say about Jake Bobo. Even in coverage, there's times where Christian Thompson thrown it in coverage, and Jake Bobo has come up with the ball. So Jake Bobo has had some miraculous times where he has shown his size to be the advantage and catch the ball and come down with it, which is good. This is what you want in your receiver. All you want, for me, in my opinion, what I want in my receiver is it catches the ball, I get a down, or I get a touchdown. You know, that's it. As long as they come up with the ball, it doesn't matter how many yards. In some cases, it could be a lot, it could be a little, and all in all, over time, I get a touchdown. That's it. That's what I rely on my receivers. But those are the things that are kind of bad, is that he's not fast. But since he's tall and long, once he's in stride, he does start moving faster than what his stats come out to be. That's something that I did actually notice, is that when he's actually deeper into his route, he starts running faster than what he looks. But that first 40% of his route, it's not necessarily the fastest. He really is, especially off the line. He is rather slow. And I hate to say this to him because I know he's way faster than me doing the wide receiver routes. But I'm talking in terms of NFL caliber level. He is slow off the first 40% of his route. Now, if you can shorten his routes, like when he does curl routes or hitch routes or any of that stuff, or even slants or ins, you know, the slowest part is probably getting that 5 yards up. And then after he cuts, that's when he starts becoming that level speed that you would want in the receiver. And he gets open up the middle, which is something Geno Smith will love to do. Throw the ball up the middle. Excuse me. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up the numbers from 2020 up to 2022. So he actually initially was in Duke until his last year, which is UCLA. But let's go ahead and talk about 2020 numbers. For Duke, he had 32 receptions for 358 yards, averaged 11.2 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown, which is surprising because that's actually, for how much he produced already, 11.2 yards a catch. You would think he'd get at least 2 or 3 more touchdowns, but that's okay. So in 2021, this was the last year for Duke. I actually put a highlight on this because this was his career in receptions. He had 74 receptions for 794 yards, 10.7 yards per catch, and again, 1 touchdown, which this one shocked me more because I'm like, you produced a lot, you caught a lot of receptions, but you still only got 1 touchdown. They didn't want to throw it to you in the red zone. Like, that's what kind of shocked me up. So then that's when he went to UCLA. I don't know if he transferred, was in the pool, or whatever happened. I just walked on. I don't know. But he became a superstar, basically. Walked in and became the big slot, like I was just mentioning earlier in this video. So he had 57 receptions for 817 yards, 14.3 yards per catch. And most importantly, and I highlighted this because this was also a career, because, of course, he only had 1 touchdown every year. 7 touchdowns. That's production, and that's production. And if you saw his highlights, he had a few red zone catches that were primo. You know, he's definitely a big red zone threat, and I like that. So another thing that I want to note is that he's also a gunner. If you've seen him in the special teams, especially when you saw him in the Vikings game, he shined. Not only was he and that's what's weird. Let me address that. That's what's weird. Even though he is slow in his beginnings, once he's in stride, especially as a gunner, he's just as, you can see he keeps up with the defense. You can see he keeps up with the special teams. He's somewhat just as fast as some of the players there. So it's kind of like perplexing because when I was full on analyzing his special teams, notably when he was trying to save the touchback and trying to down it and pinpoint it at the 1, I was just shocked because he still showed some speed, which is something that, like, beforehand when I see him on his routes, that's not what I see. I see literally like carved stone movement in the beginning. Like, I don't know. It's so odd with Bobo in terms of his speed. Anyways, but yeah, in terms of special teams, I think that alone will probably help him get into the 53-man roster, especially if he shells out the next game or two in terms of just special teams and like puts the afterburners in some kind of way and just, gets something, because there is a lot of potential that I really do see in Jake Bobo, and I honestly do in my opinion, from what I'm seeing so far, especially with our wide receiver crop, he could make the 53-man roster. And I'm not saying this because I'm a little biased because I know I'm from Southern California. I actually like Jake Bobo when he had his year and having a good time, and I like Jake Bobo. He's great, but that doesn't mean that I'm saying that out of biasness. I'm saying this out of just straight production and everything that he has in front of him. So far, if he can at least have one more touchdown in the next 2 preseason games and at least rack up another 50 yards each, or at least is a leading receiver again in probably the 3rd preseason game, he's in. He's in the 53-man. But there's no way Jake Bobo's not making the practice squad. He is too good. The Seahawks already recognize he's too good for him to walk away from the Seahawks organization. So they're going to try everything in their best to keep Bobo. Now, here's something too that I also wanted to mention in terms of people who were scared about his speed, and would it be a factor of him in particular not being able to accommodate in the NFL? Excuse me. Well, there are some people that I did see. Excuse me, because I have some notes right here behind me. So I got Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden was a great receiver. Everybody knows this. He was a tough, durable, reliable receiver. He ran a 4.71. Like, that's considered slow in the NFL. He ran a 4.71 and still did great. That's good. I have a lot of respect for Anquan. I don't care if he played for 49ers. He's a hell of a player. All right? Here's another one. Well, this one might trip you guys out. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp ran a 4.62. And for, yeah, sure, that's not Jake Bobo. Jake Bobo, excuse me. Jake Bobo ran a 4.99. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's incredibly slow. But people who are NFL caliber speed are looking between 4.5 minimum, like 4.52 minimum and below. If you're at 4.4 and below, you are golden. You don't even have to worry about having to tell people if you're slow or not. Whereas if you get past 4.5, 4.56, 4.59, people see you as, oh, can he make it in the NFL? Because he doesn't seem so fast. And it's like, dude, Cooper Kupp ran a 4.62, and y'all not seeing his production. He was a Triple Crown not even a year ago. Like, dude. And then just to add someone similar in size, because I think in terms of stature, because this player is about maybe 30 or 40 pounds heavier. And that's Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce ran a 4.61. But still, that's impressive for him. But I'm just saying, that is, if you're comparing speed, it's about somewhat the same speed in some cases. I understand Bobo's like 0.3 seconds more, but in my opinion, that's maybe like 2 more yards. Yes, NFL's a numbers game. That 2 yards makes a hell of a difference. But I do see a lot of compromises in Bobo's speed towards what he can do now in his ability to route run and play as receiver. Notably because he did play these same skill sets and same traits that he did in UCLA and Duke. I do see him being a 3rd or 4th receiver for us, or a 5th receiver. But in some cases, I don't see Seattle letting him go. But I also see Bobo making the 53. I do. I see him sneaking his way in and getting to the 53 and deserves it as well. So all in all, I'm going to also tell you guys, one person that he does really remind me of is Jordy Nelson. The reason why I say that is because Jordy Nelson was really good at creating space. As soon as he was able to get through and cut through the zone, he was able to find gaps of space and just get and catch the ball. He was never the fastest either. He was definitely, I think he still ran a 4.5 something. Or I think like a 4, yeah, I think he ran a 4.5 something. But still, Jordy Nelson he really does remind me of him in terms of being able to get open in patches of space and catch the ball and gain a few yards. So another thing that I do want to mention is that Bobo, that's one thing that he shines at the most, is that when he does run routes, he's good at reading the zones of the scheme of the defense. And as he's running his routes, he finds patches. And something that does shock me a lot is that the defense doesn't take him as seriously as you think he would. I think it's because they're aware that he's not that fast, that they're thinking, oh, well, he's only going to go so far. I can keep up with them. I'm a 4-3 guy. And then when they throw the ball, they're like, oh, shit, he's 10 yards away from me. And they throw the ball, and he catches the ball, and he goes up another 4 yards for an extra gain. Like, that's what shocks me about the defense, especially when I was watching some of it in early beginnings of his UCLA tapes. But it's notably in the Seahawks game, that's exactly how he beat Booth. Booth was gonna initially break off of Bobo because I didn't think he was gonna give him any credit. He saw him, he went back up, Bobo did a double move, shook him off, and then ran and caught the touchdown. You have to see that play closely. Booth broke his own coverage, tried to recover, but got double moved while we're trying to recover, and then Bobo caught the touchdown. So, and it shocked me because I was like, out of all the players, I said, no, not Booth. Booth was a player that I had a lot of praise for back in the draft, in the 2022 draft, or 2021 draft, I believe. One of those drafts. But hey, man, I had a lot of praise for him because I thought he would have been a good corner, especially when Trent McDuffie got picked up right before him. Was it before? I think, yeah, right before him, because I think Trent McDuffie was the first round pick. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. He shook off someone that was a second round talent drafted by the Vikings. And he made him his bitch. What can he do? And so that's the thing that I really do like about Bobo, is that I think because of his lack of speed and agility and not being so fast, defenses don't play him so hard. At least that's what I noticed. But once defense start getting smart, that's what's gonna worry me, is that he might get outgunned and maybe eventually get picked off. But he does has his size to his advantage. So the one thing that I do like, well, exactly, I'm gonna keep mentioning it. Once they throw it to him, he wants to catch the ball. So when he catches the ball, he comes down with it most of the time. And I love that about in any receiver, even tight end, any ball catcher. I want them to go and catch the ball. That's it. That's all I care about. But yeah, so in my opinion, will he make this 53-man roster? I think he will. I really do. And this is a lot of praise for Bobo. I really think that since camp, he's been good. He's been the guy. Everyone's been saying he was the camp warrior. And I always tell people I'm not a big fan of camp warriors. I'm not a big fan of, oh, you could be the best in camp. No, you need to be the best on the field. I want that same talent on the field. And so far, I saw that talent on the field. And I'm getting impressed with Bobo. If he can pull this off at least one more game, he's going to get in, and they're going to take off. Lindsley will be gone, or Winston Jr. will be gone. They will sacrifice one of those two. I don't think the Seahawks have any problem taking those capitals away to keep Bobo. But in any event, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is again my chat on will the players make the roster cuts for Jake Bobo. I really do think he will not only make a roster cut, but make the 53 as a whole. All right. Well, thank you very much. You guys have a good evening, and go Hawks.